I hope you love all the little noises from the animals. There's birds all over the place. You got the chickens in the background, like hawking and doing all kind of craziness. And I had dogs like walk past and they were just barking at all and stuff. It's like very like, I don't even know. It's very soothing, like coming out here and listening to them. So we're gonna go over the book, the Odyssey by Homer. And this is basically the theme that I wrote. It's a very powerful book. You should read it, and it's just, I'll tell you why in a second. This is the first novel to ever be written, about 3,000 years old. It's filled with epic lessons and stories based on 10,000 years of history, tales, and traditions. A combination of mythological stories of legends. Crazy, right? The Odyssey takes place after the Trojan War, a journey that takes 10 to 20 years to get home. Every great story has stemmed from the roots of this book. So I'm assuming at this point everyone has probably seen the Trojan War, the movie with Achilles. I must have watched that movie 10 times. And this basically takes place after the Trojan War. The differences between a trip and an Odyssey is one is a relaxing getaway and a break from your life. The other one is a reality check on your life that you wish you didn't have. That's crazy. An impactful journey that has changed or altered your life. So you take a trip, and and that's just you relaxing. When you go on an Odyssey, that's a journey to get away from the things that your life is and to eventually alter it and change it to the point that when you come back from the Odyssey, your life is for the better. And this is one of the things that I was talking about here. The Odyssey was written as songs and poems. So back then, and it's basically because back then it was an easier way to remember a story. The book is comprised of 24 separate stories, making it the originator of chapters. So back then, that was the easiest way to tell a story to someone else, is that you made some kind of song or poem, and they would just keep repeating a song and poem, and that's how you told stories back then. And when this book was written, it was based on 24 separate stories, which was the originator of chapters. How we have a chapter in a book, there's multiple stories that make up the book. And the fact that this book is over 3,000 years old and it's talking about 10,000 years of history. For every book that you have read, it will provide a lesson. That's what I've been learning. The form of stories that holds humanity's rules. This was the originator of good and bad, the original way that parents use great stories of heroes to tell a lesson in the form of an Odyssey, the perfect way to teach them right from wrong. So basically every story you read and formed has came because it was easier at that point to convey a lesson by telling you a story. So all the nursery rhymes, all the little stories that we hear, all the little there's millions of them. You can drop in the comments and tell me which story that you heard as a child, what lessons that were told in a hero tale that basically was trying to teach you a lesson by maybe the parents don't even think it, but maybe they do because they were told it and then their parents taught them why they were told it and the lessons in it, and then they just keep passing on to the next generation. We still use this form of storytelling to teach our young ones. It's easier for them to follow and a way for us to keep repeating the steps similar to the old nursery rhymes. So basically just what I just said. This is a quote I took from the book. Immortals are never alien to one another, meaning we are all Odysseus, a giver and a taker of trouble. So the story is about Odysseus in the Odyssey. And his name means a giver and a taker of trouble. And you'll understand why. We are Odysseus, the 12 archetypes. And these are the archetypes: sage, innocent, explorer, ruler, creator, caregiver, magician, hero, outlaw, lover, jester, and a regular person. He's basically all of them. That's why his story is so legendary. Here's another quote. Pride comes just before the fall. So there's a lot of reason about that. Don't get all prideful to the moments of your victory, and then everything will you just fall from that point. Because now at that point, why should you have this glorious hero tale if you're too proudful and you're not humble about what just happened to you? And then at that point, pride comes just before the fall. There's a lot of parts in the separate stories that you'll hear that he just And basically, I'll tell you a quick lesson from one of the tales. He was with his men. He arrived on this. He basically went into a cave and ran into a cyclops. There was a bunch of them, but they couldn't hear him at the time. And then basically, what he did was the cyclops came to him, and this is a famous tale that he says. I'm gonna say it right now. He says, "Out of sight and out of mind," meaning forgotten. And basically, what happened was, the Cyclops, in the beginning, he was smart to outthink him because he knew that he had to be strategic in how he, appeared amongst this monster, this big giant, this Cyclops that is a cannibal and eat him. And so what he did was he told him his name was Nobody before they met. So then when he got attacked, he had like shot an arrow and blinded him. And then he was yelling out to his other brothers and sisters, telling them, they were like, "Who's attacking you? Who did this?" And then what he says, "Nobody." So that was his great escape. And as he was running out, he had to be the one to say, "Yeah, it was me." So pride becomes before the fall. So he basically screwed himself over by saying that, just because he had to be right, that he was the one that did that. Karma deals out its favors kindly to those who subject themselves with humble attributes after the win of a great victory, but for those who wield the sword of pride will soon find themselves on the other side of history with misfortune. Just like I just said, this is a great lesson, meaning if you show the sight of pride and greed in the moments of victory, you will create a butterfly effect of misfortune and downfalls, which basically every story, because the Cyclops is the son of Poseidon, and since he cast out and said his name at the end, he says, when you tell them Odysseus did this. Then the Cyclops told his father, who's the god of the sea, and he has to get on the sea to journey back home. So he just basically created a butterfly effect of misfortune for himself. And when he could have just been quiet and just been like, "Hey, nobody did it." Here we go. Don't be greedy when. Pardon me, let me just delete that phone call came in. Don't be greedy when you're already being blessed with a gift. That's another lesson in itself. Life is extreme with luck or misfortune, meaning that if you're lucky, it's a lot of it. And if you're misfortunate and you don't have luck on your side, it's going to be basically how the story says, when it rains, it pours. We can't blame God for our own decisions. So there's a lot of things that happen in the story, and he was trying to blame why God was allowing this to happen to him, when he was basically the creator of his own wrong. He did this. This is the reason why he had Poseidon wronging him, because he harmed his son. And the reason why he was so prideful in the ways that he had to claim that it was his glory, he's the one that did it. Now everyone knew his name, so of course everyone's going to come after you. You did it. Here we go. There's a very powerful lesson from the story of the sirens. So you might have saw a bunch of movies on the sirens. You need to anticipate the disaster before it happens, like the form of chess, knowing 2 steps ahead before they can even make theirs. And basically, in the story of the sirens, he wanted to hear their beautiful songs, but what he did was he told his men while he was on the boat to tie himself to the head of the boat, the ship, so that he can listen. But he told his men to clog their ears so they could not hear this siren, and that it's raining out, the siren, so that they wouldn't die. And he was just stubborn enough, he wanted to hear it. So he had to anticipate what would happen so that way he can make it through it and not be killed. Here we go, is another one. He's a brilliant man, but he's just very prideful that got him in trouble. This is a hard decision that we all have to make. A lesson that the 6-headed monster tells us. We must know that there will be a time where we have to let go of people, even bad habits, for us to make the necessary journey. Every great leader must know this, and you may be thinking that I'm no leader, but we are all born to lead ourselves somewhere. All right, it's raining out here. I'm going to finish the rest of the story inside. Follow me. Appreciate y'all listening. I had to come inside because it was raining. We're going to finish this up. Don't be so cocky to think that you are the exception when it comes to wisdom. Listen to the people around you that have been there and done that before you try to attempt it. I promise it will speed up the process, and humbling yourself to listen to wiser people than yourself will be the lesson. What could I have done differently? And that's a question that you have to ask, and it's a question that we all ask ourselves when it comes to an outcome you didn't expect or you didn't think would happen, and then you question the series of actions that you took to figure out how you could have did it differently to make it where it would have been an outcome that you would actually be pleased with. So we can't go back in the past and change things, but we can learn from those lessons and move forward so that we don't make those same mistakes. Pleasure and suffering are often best friends. Remember, regret does not discriminate. As long as you are dead, then there is still time for work to be done. So basically saying, as long as you are not dead, that there's still a mission that you can complete. This is a famous story that a lesson that basically Will Smith said that his father, and I might not have quoted directly or the same way that he says it correctly, or word for word, but basically he says that his father was, in the military, and he was saying that there's a mission that's at hand. And he was saying that his father would tell him, he says that you either come back alive and the mission is complete, or you just die. So there's only one way. The mission has to be completed. You can't come back and not have the mission completed. And it's like a great story about back with Spartans, where you either came back on your shield or you came back on your feet. There you go right there. Another part of this. Here's another lesson into it. Stories matter. Networking matters. We're going to go into this section. And then we're going to go into another section of the book. Love is a cosmic feeling, something hard to understand. It's an ancient level of companionship. There's another quote I took. If you want to live a world-class life, then you have to be world-class. There are no shortcuts to success. And this is my added part to it. There is no control plus V in life. Show your value, because there will come a day when faking it until you make it won't hold any value until you show that you deserved it. String the bow and shoot the arrow straight through. Focus, breathe, have patience, and then let go. These are the attributes to becoming a great success. Or you can say, to rephrase it, these are the attributes of someone who is great. So once again, string the bow and shoot the arrow straight through. Focus, breathe, have patience, and then let go. These are the attributes to becoming great. The Odyssey doesn't end just. It's messy and bloody. You'll learn that as you read it or if you listen to it. Here's another quote. Your big whys matter. Here's another one. The treasure at the end of the journey is love. That is the freedom of loving and being human. And the last part, to sum this all up. Despite everything, you must carry on. Persistence is the true winner in every great story. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. And I look forward to challenging myself next week to read as many possible or listen to as many possible books, because not every book that I'm listening to is audio form, so I have to buy them and read them. But to listen to as many possible books as possible, I kind of just did like a word play there, right? Went in circles. So essentially just listen to as many books as I can. And I'm going to say that the average, I listened to 11 books in 2 weeks, and the average person reads about 12 books a year. So I think I'm on a good pace. It shows that you can digest a lot of information and actually retain it and tell you in a way that you can listen to it in audio form or watch this from your home or work or on your way to work and listen to the book like I did, but just in a faster way. Instead of spending an hour, 2 hours listening to an audiobook or someone's cliff notes, you can just listen to my 10 to 15 minutes or even 5 minutes of information that I learned from the book.